This is the Homecoming with the Downing Brothers podcast, where we talk about real estate, business, and financial literacy. They live by the motto, dream, plan, execute. Your host, Anthony and Anton Downing.
Welcome to Homecoming with the Downing Brothers. This is Anthony.
This is Anton.
Hey, bro, who do we have today?
We have Pongee Barnes.
That's right, Pongee Barnes, also known as P.E. Barnes in the literary world.
Also known as Real Estate and Chill.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here, you guys.
Oh, man, you know what? I just appreciate the fact that you made time in our need to get a great guest. And you came through for us, so I appreciate you.
I wouldn't miss it.
All right, so this is Homecoming with the Downing Brothers. So we always start off by people telling us exactly where they grew up. What's your hometown? Where are you from?
Okay, so I am from the south side of Chicago. I grew up in the Washington Heights area, and I went to Julian High School. So I pretty much, I'm rooted right here. I live not too far from where, I grew up. So, yeah, I pretty much from the south side of Chicago.
All right, man. Yep. Julian, so right down the street from Morgan Park High School. You know anything about that, huh? Yeah.
Our rival, yeah.
Our very first apartment building, Washington Heights.
Nice.
Yeah, so we know about that.
Yes.
We know about that. So when you were growing up, what was your first exposure to real estate or business or financial literacy? Like, who exposed you to it?
So basically, my first exposure to financial literacy was from my dad. So when I was 13 years old, my dad gave me a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh, we know about that.
We have that one.
So basically, when I read that book, I didn't know what I wanted to be. My parents wanted me to be a lawyer, but I knew I didn't want to be an employee. So that book, even at 13 years old, really was like a huge eye-opener for me. Mm-hmm. So that's my first exposure to it.
All right, thanks, Dad.
Exactly, I owe it all to him.
All right, cool. So, all right, so you get past, high school and you get into the adult world. Mm-hmm. What was your, first, venture into real estate? In what capacity or, how did that happen?
Right. So basically, I went to college at SIU in Carbondale. Okay. And as a college student, I was a little bit different than most college students. I was actually, not partying as much, and I was obsessed with making money. Okay. So I always had an entrepreneur spirit about me. So I was watching shows on A&E and HGTV that was basically showing how you could flip a house and put new carpet in and get $100K. Right. Back in those days, right? Yeah. Where everyone could get a loan, a mortgage. So basically, I saw those shows, and then I was telling my husband at the time, boyfriend at the time, we gotta just buy something and flip it. And so we bought something. I was a junior in college. Mm-hmm. I was 20 years old, and we bought something, a condo. And
whoa. Wait.
Yeah.
You're 20 years old.
Yeah.
You're in college.
Yes.
And you bought
a condo in Chicago. Yes, I was living in Carbondale at the time, but I bought something in Chicago. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I like this already.
I want everybody to pause for a second. A college student, a young woman in college, bought a property not in her college town, not in Carbondale, in Southern Illinois. She bought it in Chicago. Tell us more.
So my boyfriend, husband now, but he wasn't even in the state either. So we just had this property. But we really wanted to, flip because we were just thinking we could make really quick 6 figures. Okay, we were crazy. But yeah, we bought this little condo in the Beverly area. And so we bought it and we flipped it within a year. But it was one of our worst experiences in real estate because we didn't make any money from it. We actually got a call from our lawyers telling us to come to the closing table to bring money or we can't close. And we were why didn't we make a profit? And so, we learned that with condo associations, you can have special assessments. And we got letters in the mail about special assessments, but you don't really think, as a college student. And so when you see $13,000 for, you have to pay towards a new boiler, roof, and all these type of things, and it has to be paid before you can close, it takes off a lot of your profit. So, and, other little things. So that was our first negative experience. And then we couldn't back out from that process.
Okay.
Because we already were under contract on another condo in the building. Because we were so confident that we were going to make a nice
money on
profit
that one.
that we had already put the earnest money and already had a contract to close that following month on that one. So
Did y'all
you
go
able to
ahead with the
close?
next one?
we did, and we actually made a profit this time. So I was kind of
Okay,
glad that God had us under contract because we wouldn't have gotten back into it because the experience was so bad. So
You might have quit.
yeah, absolutely.
Because you were so confident,
Yeah.
you went ahead and had the second option going on.
Exactly. We were in contract and we lose our earnest money. So
What was different about the second deal that made profit?
no special assessment, and we also bought it at a much cheaper price. I believe we bought the one, the first one at $145,000. This one we were actually able to get for $99,000.
Wow.
So,
significantly less.
Exactly. Well, because we bought it a year later, so the market was already kind of coming down a little
Was
bit.
this-
What year was this? Was this
2005, and then we purchased the under contract 2006. So
this is
yeah.
still
Yeah.
pre-recession though? Okay.
Exactly. So, yeah, but yeah, those fees from the special assessment and everything kind of pretty much ate up a lot of our profit. But the second one, we went in and fixed it up, and then we made a really nice profit on that one. So we resold that one
All right,
within
and
a
then you
year.
regained your confidence.
Exactly, pretty
Hey.
much.
How long did it take you to do when you purchased the?
Yeah.
Well, give us a timeline for the first one. How many months did it take you from the purchase to the sale, even if it was a failure? How?
Probably about a year. So we probably rented because it was a slow renovation. I was just going back and checking. It was mostly cosmetic renovations.
And you had a
And
tenant?
then, no, we actually just had it vacant. We
The
had it
entire
vacant.
12 months?
Yes, we were actually paying this mortgage out of our pocket and everything. So, no, we had no tenant in there. The idea was to flip it. So,
Right.
of course, we didn't move
Did y'all
anyone
keep
in
a
there.
bed in there? Did y'all ever sleep in there?
It was staged.
It was staged.
Right, it was staged. So, I mean, when I would come home, I would stay there, if I come home for a college break or something like
Okay.
that. But it was pretty much staged.
Okay.
So, and that gets me on why I had a staging business. But yeah, that one, it's probably just the renovations and then putting it on the market and then going through the whole financing process with the buyer and stuff like that.
So 12
yeah.
months.
Yeah.
Now the second one, what was the timeline on that?
Probably about the same amount of time. That one took a little bit longer to sell, but we actually got a lot more for it because this one was smaller. So this one was like about 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and the other one was 2 bedrooms. So it was
the
actually
two
bigger.
of you together carried that mortgage.
Yes.
Neither one of you were living there.
Yeah, and he was paying for rent in Michigan. So yeah, but yeah, we did it and it was worth
Wow.
it.
So, all right. So,
Yeah.
I know that the homies are listening right now. And they're
Yeah.
saying, how does she afford to pay this monthly mortgage?
As an undergrad at SIU Carbondale, mind you, not 2 weeks ago, we did a seminar at St. Louis University.
Okay.
And it was actually hosted by a graduate of SIU Edwardsville,
Oh, nice.
Charles Martin.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking about the locations and whatnot. I hope the homies, especially the homies that are still in undergrad or in graduate school, are listening because this is a good story for you.
Yeah. So tell us more. Like, how were you able to be able to cover that monthly mortgage?
Well, my boyfriend, but husband at the time, he had a pretty good job. He was working in the auto industry.
Okay.
So that's why he was in Michigan, right there, and working for General Motors. So he had a very decent income.
Oh, okay.
So
Big
it
difference,
wasn't
okay.
really a huge struggle to actually pay for it. I mean, it was like felt like it was like a burden a little bit because he's still paying rent and I'm still living on campus. But and then also I had like a little business where I would sell like t-shirts, sweatshirts, and things like that on eBay. So I had my own little eBay business. So I had income from that as well.
Okay.
So I would just like get huge shipments from China and I'd resell it. So that was like another hustle that I did.
Man, I did
You
that.
are
man.
an entrepreneur for sure.
This
Yeah,
reminds me of when
yeah.
I was in undergrad.
Yeah,
We went
so-
to U of I in Champaign.
Okay,
here
okay.
comes the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and me and one of my guys, we would drive like 12 hours to New York, to the Fabric District, and buy a whole bunch of purses, and then have purse parties at U of I in Champaign.
See? That's amazing.
And
Yeah.
he turned a profit.
Yeah.
Oh, we was making money off those purses, man.
Yes. So I feel the same. I did the same thing. I just did it on eBay, and so it worked out really well for me.
So you finished the second property.
Yes.
What was the profit on that?
The profit on that was, I believe, between 13 or 16,000, something like that.
13
range.
and 16,000.
Between that price range, I can't remember exactly.
In a celebration.
Yes, because it felt like, okay, finally this makes sense. You can't actually make money in real estate because we definitely had our doubts. Like, okay, this feels like a scam. Like,
Right.
they because we were getting a lot of our references from television. So then it felt like wow, did it are these people making this up? And now when you close on the second one, okay, you can actually make some money. So
then what happened after this property?
Just buying like single family homes and flipping and things like that.
So you left the condo situation and now you went to a single family.
Right, because the condo association thing, turn
off.
It's a huge turn off. So I haven't bought one since.
Right.
So.
I haven't either. I only bought one condo. It was my very first purchase ever.
Okay, yeah.
Back in 2007.
Yeah.
Before the recession.
Yeah.
You know what happened after that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not a big fan of condos myself, but I would not knock anyone who does it. It's all circumstantial. So we're not telling anyone out there listening not to buy condos or not to flip them. Just do your research and your due diligence and do what works for you.
Absolutely. Yep. It's a great starting place. Absolutely.
So you got into the single family homes. So did you use the same process? I mean, you just bought a home. Did you use a conventional loan, a FHA, 203K? What did you do?
Well, we used the first one that we bought. We actually bought with cash.
Okay.
And that one was like $25,000.
Right.
And then when we bought other ones, we would use like loans and things like that. So, yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So, I'm curious. If you bought it cash, you did the renovation cash.
Yes.
Then did you then do like a cash out refinance in order to be able to get money to go to the next property?
We were flipping.
Oh, so you just flipped it all together. You didn't hold on to anything.
Oh no, we didn't start being buy and hold investors until 2012 when my realtor was like, "Aren't you sick of flipping? Don't you want to just be a landlord?" And I was really turned off by the idea. But we actually found something, a townhouse, and I found a decent tenant. And she was there for 4 years, always paid on time, and it was a good experience, my first experience with renting. And after I started getting that residual income every month, I just loved it. And so we would flip, out of necessity, just because that would be part of our business plan in terms of not like taking on so much debt and over leveraging ourselves.
Right.
So we did do flip. It's not my favorite thing to do, but it did get us where we needed to be.
Right.
So, but yeah, I definitely love renting. It's my preference.
All right, cool. So, I mean, some of us we stick with multi-units. I know other people in the industry. They may have 10 single-family homes as opposed to having 3 flats. So, where do you fall in there? What's your comfort zone?
I prefer single families, but I do have multifamily. I have a 3-flat and I have a 2-flat. And so the 3-flat I bought my brother actually that came in. But I feel like single family people that lease to the single families, I feel like they stay longer. I feel like they also take care of the home like they're homeowners. For me, vacancy is a huge issue. It's like saying the F word. And so I feel like I feel you. Yeah. And so my average tenant is there 4, 5, 6 years, as opposed to with, the multifamily, people generally don't stick around that long because they just want a better space or a building with better amenities or whatever. So I feel like with single family, that's why it's like my cup of tea, because people stick around longer, take care of the home. And then a lot of it I'm doing with Section 8. So you get that guaranteed income as well. So, yep.
Yeah, we have a tenant in one of our buildings that's been there for 17 years.
Wow.
Now, only owned the building 3 years. So after we took control of that building, it stayed.
Wow.
And our Section 8 tenants have both been there 5 years. And we really haven't gotten into the Section 8 yet, but those are my favorite tenants. Shout out to Section 8.
Yes, I love Section 8.
You know what? For all the homies out there, I think this is as good a time as any to get a definition. So let's get to Anton's definition of the day. Hold on. Anton's definition of the day.
Okay, the definition of the day is Section 8. The Section 8 program allows private landlords to rent apartments and homes at fair market rates to qualified low-income tenants with a rental subsidy. And let me tell you, to get paid Section 8 the first of the month, on time, every month, for years on end, feels good.
Yes.
All right, so we all know if you're in the real estate industry, there's a lot of people who are like, especially like newbies, people who are new to becoming landlords, they are so afraid of Section 8. What are your feelings on it? Were you afraid and now not afraid, or where do you feel?
I was definitely afraid. I also had negative connotations about Section 8 tenants. I'm guilty of that. I thought that they were going to tear my house up and they weren't going to like do the things that they needed to do. Now, I have experienced that. But what those experiences have taught me is to really have a very tight system on terms of screening. And so my screening process is very lengthy. It takes a long time. Like, I will take 2 months to pick a tenant. I'll just keep going until I find someone, which is what my book kind of talks about, is tenant screening, because that's huge, because you're not going to have good experience if you don't pick the correct tenant. Because to me, I would say about 30-40% of Section 8 tenants are good, and the rest are kind of like,
Right.
Yeah, in my opinion. Yeah.
But again, due diligence, circumstantial, you can make the system work for you if you're patient enough to actually go through all the steps. Screening is everything, though.
You know, like one of our Section 8 tenants was in undergrad, had a kid never tore anything up. She graduated, has a job, whatever. You know, the other Section 8 tenant, I can't remember what she does, never tore anything up. Right. You know who did tear something up in that building? The fair market one.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know, in the garden unit. So.
Right. So, I mean, at the end of the day, no matter whether they're market or Section 8, you treat them all the same. It's about the screening process.
Absolutely. Right. It's the screening.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to turn to our homecoming event. Okay. So this is what I found for the homecoming event. So, you know, presidential year, you know, that we're in right now is that time of year. The candidates are talking housing issues at the Democratic debates. And so as we go through it, the presidential season can be kind of bizarre because, like, these candidates can start to attack each other about all these different issues. They can get on tangents, get away from anything that's really important. But one thing that I feel like is always important to all of us is housing, whether we're on the tenant side of it or whether we're on the actual landlord side of it. And so these are some of the things that have been talked about. Bernie Sanders, he's been talking about the fact that there's 500,000 people, including 30,000 veterans, that sleep on the street each night. And so he wants to address it, and he's been campaigning on the fact that he has a $2.5 trillion plan to end homelessness. Now, it's been kind of vague, but at least he's talking about the fact that they need to create funding, which really is probably going to end up being going to developers to create affordable housing.
Right.
So $2.5 trillion, I'm all for that.
I agree.
We got Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar. She is trying to address the backlog of applicants for Section 8 housing. And she wants to increase incentives for building affordable housing. So again, kind of a consistent thing. There has to be some federal funding that spurs the building of new construction or the renovation of dilapidated properties in cities like Chicago, St. Louis, Milwaukee, you name an urban center. We need to get that money in there. I mean,
especially because what you find with a capitalist, you know, society or agenda is that people want to have luxury apartments to make the most rent. They're not necessarily going to shoot for, you know, affordable housing without incentive. Right. So all of the candidates, they're addressing it in one way or another, and there's different arguments on what's most important. To me, what's important, and I'm just biased, is getting money for developers, funding that we can draw from, so that we can actually improve the housing stock. And there has to be like this balance, right, between you know, you have to incentivize it so that the people who are in position to build are going to make a profit, but at the same time continue to make it affordable for both the market rate tenants and for the Section 8 tenants, for them to be somewhere where they can be proud to live.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
I mean, we want some compassionate capitalists.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Actually, I think that, you know, we were at we just did a talk at LinkedIn.
We did.
Yeah, we just did a talk at LinkedIn. We were talking about how to use real estate to create, you know, income. We go on college tours and go to different universities talking about this, and we're talking about how they can use real estate, especially when you're talking about cash flow, and use that cash flow to be able to pay for student loans. so that even if they have a job, now the job income, that earned income, can be freed up for them to do other things they want to do.
Right.
But like real estate, I think is key. It's like foundational if they know in the very beginning, and the younger, the better. I think we're going to talk about young people in a minute.
I think, especially here in Chicago, when you look at the budget that the CHA has, and they've been accused of hoarding money. Even under Rahm, they were accused of having a $400 million excess budget, and they will not release, vouchers so that people can actually get the housing that they need. I mean, it's ridiculous that you're waiting 2, 3, 4 years of a waiting list for people to get housing, and you have the funding.
Because they want to keep those people out the city. That's all it was.
Absolutely.
You have an agenda, you have a policy.
Absolutely.
The policy was, don't give out the vouchers to people who are low income.
Exactly.
But everybody needs to live somewhere. And actually, I feel like crime goes down when people are in housing that they're proud of.
Yes.
When they're proud to be there, you'll see people. I mean, I feel like when you're in a nice neighborhood and someone drops some trash, everyone notices it, and they take pride and say, I'm going to pick the trash up and put it up. But if you're in a neighborhood where everything is dilapidated, then it's like, well, why should I pick the trash up? Because the trash is...
It's 100 more pieces over there, right? So, yeah, I agree.
So we need candidates that are going to get money for housing, please. All right, so let's move on. Can you give us your dream, plan, execute moment?
Okay, so I think my dream, plan, execute moment was, I always dreamed of being an author. I was a very avid reader when I was a kid. And so I wanted to write like a novel. So I have been writing a novel since I was in college, and I was like close to late 30s, and I was like still wondering why I hadn't finished this book. And so obviously my passion is real estate. And so my brother would always have his friends asking me about how to get into real estate investing. And I would give them book suggestions, but I don't think they really read any of them. And I wanted to write and speak to the millennial generation and make them be able to relate to it. So I was thinking about it, and this book was released in 2018.
Which book is this you're talking
Real
about?
Estate and Chill.
Real Estate and Chill, okay.
I believe I wrote it in 2017. It was a holiday season because it was around Christmas time, and I actually wrote that book within like 2 or 3 weeks.
Hey, hold
I wrote that
man.
book.
Yeah, so when you
Let the homie see that.
Yeah.
Man.
And the thing, you said 2 or 3 weeks, so that means you were in the zone.
Oh, absolutely.
You were feeling this.
I will tell you that I didn't go to Christmas dinner, and I told my husband to go, and because he was going to his family's house. I said, take the kids. I'm not going to Christmas dinner. I am finishing my book. So
Did he bring you a plate back?
yes, of course they brought me a plate back. But yeah, that's how much I was so focused on getting this book out. You know how you just need to dump it and
I've had that feeling before.
Yeah. So that's where I was with that book. So that book talks about screening, talks about Section 8 flipping, a lot of the bad experiences that I had. It talks about tenant proofing your property to make sure that you're not constantly, some people use the wrong materials. So when you do have vacancy and turnover, you have to renovate your entire property again. So I definitely talk about the choices that you should make when you're buying it, properties that, are good properties to purchase and things like that. So
it's really the book is entitled Real Estate and Chill.
Yes.
The chill part, is that like the part where you just collecting rental
pretty
income?
much, exactly.
I like that part, the chill part. I like
I like that too.
Yes.
All right, cool. So, I mean, my takeaway from that just now is we need to write several books. We need to write several
Everyone
books.
should write a book. Yes.
Everyone should write a
absolutely
book.
right.
All right, well, tips and tricks for new investors, Real Estate and Chill. Look it up, P.E. Barnes, on Amazon or wherever you buy your books.
5 stars on Amazon.
5. She wants
5 stars.
She wants y'all to know 5 stars. That means that this is a good book.
No, actually, it's 4.5. I'm sorry. Somebody left a bad review.
You honest? See, she honest. 4.5.
Yeah.
Couldn't have been that
One
bad. It
review.
feels. Don't worry,
Yeah.
We're gonna give you 5 stars and we're gonna bump you back up.
Exactly, because that's where I was.
All right, cool. All right, so let me ask you this, off the top of your head.
Yes.
When you hear the word homecoming, what does that mean to you?
To me, I think that means community. So I think it means giving back and going back to your roots and making sure that you bring somebody else along, and then you honor the people that have helped you, because I don't think anyone gets to where they are by themselves. I think it took some community, whether that was your family, friends, a teacher, or a mentor. So community means giving back to me.
I feel that. I feel that. So based on that whole idea of that you just came up with for homecoming, can you give us a homecoming story? Something, it could be funny, it could be awkward, it could be whatever you want, just something interesting for all the homies out there.
So last year, I was invited to speak at Entrepreneurship Day at Stagg Elementary in Inglewood. And it was about maybe 10 other Black entrepreneurs. And so we were all speaking to the children about entrepreneurship, which I really thought was great because you don't see that at many schools, especially CPS, to have a day focused on entrepreneurship. And so I was talking to the children, and I was kind of giving them a presentation on what I do and showing them some before and afters and things like that. And they were so intrigued. And so I was like, when I walked away from it, I was really inspired more by the children than anything. And I was thinking, well, how can other children become just as exposed to entrepreneurship as my children are on a more, daily basis, instead of just having this one day out of the year? How can they have more access to it?
Right.
And so that happened in spring of last year. And so it kind of really stayed on my heart. And so like in the summertime, I started kind of, playing with the idea of writing a children's book that's based on entrepreneurship. And so the first book that we came up with, my children wrote the first books of the series.
Right.
But the one that I wrote kind of dedicated to those children that was so curious about real estate investing is Riley the Real Estate Investor.
This one right here.
Yes. And this book was featured in Crane Chicago last week. And, he just highlighted the fact that a real estate investor, a local real estate investor, was teaching children about the financial literacy and then the basics of just investing in real estate. So,
okay.
Yep.
Right. So this isn't the only one though. So you did like basically this Riley book. It was geared towards young girls.
Yes.
And so you had some books
for boys. Absolutely. So I have Robert the Real Estate Investor. I have Ben the Banker.
Ben the Banker. Can y'all see that back there?
Ben the Banker.
Yeah.
Franklin the franchise owner.
That's good.
Okay. Real quick.
Yes.
Tell me about Franklin the franchise owner.
Okay. So I'm going to sound like a bad mom, but me and him have an addiction to fast food. And so I'm trying to teach him, and I'm trying to kick it, but I'm trying to also teach him that he doesn't have to just be a consumer. So, for instance, we help him buy his first share of stock in McDonald's. But we also talked about the fact that he can own a franchise. So it doesn't have to be McDonald's, it could be whatever franchise restaurant. But I was just trying to, I don't want my children to grow up and just buying things. Right. I want them to invest in things, So that was and I felt like other parents could relate to that, where their kids are constantly asking for Happy Meals. Yeah. So that book focuses on that.
Look, don't feel bad about that. Our mother used to take us to Beverly every weekend to go to open houses, and she'd act like she's seriously considering the house, and then she would take us to Checkers and get everybody a Checkers combo and make a day of it.
My season.
So
I love
it was
that
a
story.
thing.
Yeah.
It was a thing.
I love that story.
Yeah. So we love doing that. I've been seeing this, and maybe because law of attraction or whatever. I've been seeing a lot where people are investing in the things that they buy. So shout out to Wall Street Trapper. Wall Street Trapper, if you follow him on Instagram, he always talks about if you go in your closet and you look at your favorite shoes, your favorite pants, your favorite clothes, belts, jewelry, whatever your favorite items are, then go over to your refrigerator. Look at all the name brand foods that you have in your refrigerator. If you have any adult beverages, what are the brands that you keep? That you say, if I'm going to go to the adult beverage store to buy something,
right?
What am I going to buy? He said, once you write that list down of all those brands, those are the brands that you then do the research to say, I'm going to buy stock in those brands. So instead of spending $150 on a pair of Nike gym shoes, you spend $150 on a Nike stock. Now you know that it's going to pay a dividend. Nike pretty much is always on the rise. And then you go from there. And that's just kind of like the philosophy. You know what to invest in because you just by looking at what you consume.
I love that, yeah.
So tell me about Ben the Banker.
That pretty much goes along with what you were talking about.
Turn that one up too. I want to see it.
My son Benjamin, he helped co-write this book, and he is 9 years years old, and my husband is helping him learn how to invest in the stock market. And they're both learning, but Ben is way more interested. And he comes home and he looks at his iPad to see what he made in the market. And sometimes he has good days, and sometimes he has bad days. And we try to explain to him, like, you can't, like, get so emotional about it. The market goes up and down.
Right.
But basically, this book is also kind of like honoring like the Freedmen's Bank in terms of the federal bank that they had for ex-slaves, and they put their money into the bank, and the federal government lost their money.
Right.
And so this book just kind of is like a book of redemption because it focuses on group economics, because Ben went to Howard, and then he went to Harvard, and he worked at a really good brokerage, and then he decided he didn't want to do that, and he went to his friends, he went to his brother, and they decided to open up a community bank, and they opened up several banks to help with capital, home ownership, and things like that. So we talk about that. We also give a little small history lesson about black-owned banks. Right. So yeah.
I'm impressed. I'm just like, wow.
That's so deep. Like going back to my first apartment building, I got the mortgage with Illinois Service Federal, which was a black-owned bank in Chicago going back to the 20s, I believe. And now it's owned by a Ghanaian bank, GN Bank, but they still black.
Yes.
So, shout out to all of those banks that you have in your book there.
Yeah,
yes.
so I love these banks. I love these books because all of these books are about us becoming producers.
Yeah, exactly.
From childhood. And that's why if we go back to the beginning of every episode of the Homecoming with the Downing Brothers, we always ask, in your childhood, where were you inspired to get into real estate, business, or financial literacy? Because we know that younger people start.
Exactly.
And usually there's some kind of introduction. It's all about exposure.
Exactly.
So we need
I think that's so big
with
with your son. We didn't have iPads, smartphones. We didn't have any of that, man. We had
Monopoly.
That's it.
My favorite game in the whole wide world.
Our older cousin, we have 3 other brothers besides the 2 of us, and we'd all play Monopoly all weekend at our grandmother's house.
2-3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And at the time, so this exposure to real estate and the idea that you pass go, that's earned income. You pass go, you collect $200. But we understood real early on that we couldn't win the game by just passing go. We needed to take our money and buy the properties.
Exactly.
And so it's the ownership of the higher end properties, or even if you had the lower end properties, having multi-units,
exactly.
right? So you got single family homes, and then you have the hotel, which represents multi-unit properties or commercial properties. And so like these concepts they were exposed to when we're younger are everything. So the fact that you had these books, man, we need everybody to get these books. We need these books to be inside, the kindergarten or first grade or whatever, right?
Yeah, well, actually, my son, he is a first grader. And so we had an event at Clissold School, and the school, they came and supported, and the boys read the books. But we have been asked to go and travel to so many schools, so they love going and reading to other children and inspiring other children. So yeah, the goal is to definitely get into the school system. So,
that's it. I like that.
I want to see it happen. Let's make it happen out there, homies. Let's support this.
Yes.
Buy the books, y'all.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So, man, we need to move to a charitable cause or a charitable organization that you want to highlight.
Okay. Well, I'm really active in my church, so I would highlight Trinity Church. I'm a member there on 95th Street.
95th and Evanston?
Talking Reverend Moss?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
All right,
we've been going to that church since we were teenagers.
Yeah. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Okay, yeah. So
he supported our show when it first aired on HDTV.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
he put it up on the jumbo screen and
he
everything.
probably didn't make it that Sunday.
And when we did the house giveaway, he supports Reverend Moss too. He supports everything, and we thoroughly interrupted you. We're sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. No, like how good this church is and what it gives back to the community, and I just love it. I'm a part of the housing ministry, and we just love planning events to help with homelessness, going out there and giving different type of care packages to the homeless, or when they had the whole when the temperature dropped last year and they were able to let all of those homeless people, what was it, -20 or something like that, and they let all these people come into the church and they housed them and fed them and everything, And then we also do resource fairs. So we will get different organizations from around the city to come and talk to our seniors as well as like the younger people in terms of home ownership as well as just maintaining your home. So we'll get ComEd out, People's Gas, Cook County Land Bank, different organizations just to come.
We work with
Cook County Land Bank. Shout out to Rob Rose.
Yeah, so I love doing that. It really feels good to give back and just the impact that you have on these people, just to give them the information that they need. So Trinity is definitely what I would highlight. Yeah,
that's what's up.
Yeah,
you just made
for sure.
Day. You just made my day.
And you know, I'm thinking about we have a homecoming alumni, Quentin Love, that on Mondays from 12 to 3, he feeds the homeless.
Okay.
He's given out 250,000 meals so far.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe we can hook up the housing
ministry
with his program.
Yeah.
We should talk about that offline for sure.
Yeah, we would love that.
Yeah. So, man, I mean, you really covered the base. We should have had you on our first episode. We should have had you on here a long time ago. Where were you at?
Thank you.
No, I mean, so man, I just want to review real quick.
Okay.
I want to review real quick. So we got the books.
Yes.
Right? We got Franklin, the franchise owner, Ben, the banker, real estate and chill.
Riley, the real estate investor.
Yes.
Right. So we got the books. We want to get to the children as early as possible because exposure is everything.
Absolutely.
Hey, shout out to Trinity and the housing ministry, because we need to do this work so that we can make an impact on the communities. We can't just talk about it. We have to actually be about it. And we want to always use our platforms to be able to get the message out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, we support everything that you're doing. We love it. And hey, we're gonna have to have you back at some point.
I would love to.
I know you're not done. You got more to do.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was a joy. So.
Well, how can people reach you? How can they find you and find your books?
I'm on Instagram at Real Estate and Chill, and I'm also on. If you want to do the children's book, that is on Instagram at _owners, and then on Facebook, Little Owners. So
you represent clients on the real estate side?
I'm not. I'm just a real estate investor. I have my own agent.
Okay.
Yes, I'm just an investor.
Don't say just.
Well,
we're all
people
investors.
always
we're investors
ask me
now.
that.
Right. We're not just investors. We're investors.
I get that question all the time. Like, are you a real estate agent? I'm like, no, I'm just on the investing side.
We do too.
Okay.
But I think one of the biggest things is like anyone can be a real estate investor.
Absolutely.
Anybody can be a real estate investor. You don't have to be a realtor. You don't have to be an attorney. If you want to get into real estate, you can be just like the three of us.
Right.
Become a real estate investor. Just do your research. Get it together, everybody.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna conclude this episode right here. We want everyone to hang around for Anthony's After Set. Welcome to Anthony's After Set. I'm glad you guys decided to stick around. I always want to leave everyone with a little bit of inspiration and something to carry on with. In today's episode, I got inspired. I kind of changed up what I wanted to talk about in the After Set. And I found this from Reverend Otis Moss over at Trinity. He said, when we act out of God's love and not from our fears, we begin to take a positive change in our lives and in the world. I think that all of us are capable of making a positive change in this world. We can write a book. We can volunteer. We can mentor. We can simply just show love to perfect strangers walking down the street. We can hold a door. We can do something to actively show some love. I think that with all of the hate that we see in this world right now, we need balance. There's a yin and yang to everything. I'm a twin. Me and my brother, I feel like our personalities bring balance to each other. And if we're going to bring balance to all the hate that we see in this world, we got to love. Love comes in many forms, and you have to figure out how you want to love. How you want to love yourself, how you want to love your family and your friends, how you want to love the community at large. But we've got to do something to show some love. We can all make a difference. We can all make a positive change in our own lives and in this world. Go out there and show some love. See you guys next time on Homecoming with the Downing Brothers.
Thank you for tuning in to Homecoming with the Downing Brothers podcast. For more information on how to dream, plan, execute in real estate, business, and financial literacy, visit www.thedowningbrothers.com.